Good morning, everyone. The project we are presenting today is called Her Voice, Her Care. It looks at strengthening the continuity of care in ethnic minority women's antenatal pregnancy journey and helping them build trust. We are a team of five, all designers and strategists from different cultures and backgrounds of expertise working on this project. Tower Hamlets has several community partnerships to improve healthcare services. And along with the Tower Hamlets Council for Volunteering Services, we were fortunate to work with the Maternity Mates program by Sister Circle, which helps women in their pregnancy journey, and our service plugs in this program as a pilot. Speaking about the borough, we came across a recent publication about the Bangladeshi community. Here's a quote that speaks extensively about how racism is embodied within the healthcare system but almost invisible to the world. We also came across a survey from the borough where almost half of the surveyed population had a negative impression of antenatal services, and a third of population living here is Asian Bangladeshi. This is what made us choose our topic of study, which is strengthening antenatal care for South Asian minority.
We looked closely at areas such as Brick Lane, Mile End, and Whitechapel, and visited the medical centers, pharmacies, bookshops, as well as recreational parks to speak with the locals. Meeting these people exposed us to several sources of literature about the place and its people, as well as opportunities to interview a few professionals and develop our prototype. Here's also a snapshot of the NHS website and how overwhelmingly wordy it looks for the information on antenatal care, appointments, and procedures. These are the experts that we interviewed, some physiotherapists, social workers, as well as midwives, that gave us a detailed understanding of the antenatal journey, their experiences, and the gaps in the service. Additionally, here are our key insights that gave us direction to our project. First, continuity is relational. Continuity of care is important, but it's also less about the system, but more about building relationships. Second, trust precedes care. Relationships are built through trust, and this is what precedes the actual service of care. This is where the community partners come into play. Our third insight is that silence is structurally produced. Pain and endurance are often normalized in some cultures. This silence makes certain medical conditions undiagnosed and chronic. As our last insight is, fragmentation erodes health. In our interview with a midwife, she revealed how a pregnant woman is made to interact with 150 to 160 professionals along a 9 month journey. Imagine having to call a helpline and go through the same IVR over and over again to explain your problem. It becomes nearly impossible to form trust. Based on our research, we created our personas. The first persona is the quiet struggler, who is the first generation immigrant mom residing in Tower Hamlets. In spite of attending antenatal appointments, changing midwives, and unfamiliar services, leaves her overwhelmed and fearful to ask questions. She has limited awareness of the available NHS services, which leads to normalizing and enduring her pain. It also takes them time to build trust and comfort in sharing their concerns, often relying on family remedies. Communication barriers such as language differences and the use of digital tools hinder engagement with the services. Our second persona is the burnout midwife. Due to a high number of patients, she must balance clinical tasks while giving emotional care. This reduces her capacity to engage deeply, despite good intentions. Her main barriers include time pressure, heavy workload, and limited capacity to identify personal concerns. Cultural differences can also lead to unintentional bias, where symptoms are misinterpreted or dismissed.
This brings us to our how might we question. How might we support both the quiet struggler and the burnt out midwife to improve communication, service invisible concerns, and enable more personalized care within time limited maternity interactions? Our service sees our community partners as the relational bridge between midwives who are constantly changing throughout the process. In the current process of the antenatal appointments, mothers just carry their maternity notes without interacting with them, while passing them between midwives. In fact, the midwives take away these notes after giving birth, which makes them just a temporary resource for mothers, leaving them no point of reference regarding their antenatal journey. In our proposed process, a structured toolkit is provided by the maternity mate after the first session, which is then combined with the maternity notes. This toolkit facilitates guided reflection with the maternity mate and clearer feedback with the midwives during the sessions, which would help empower pregnant women throughout their entire journey towards more personal care. Being an iterative process, we tested our idea in a few prototypes with the following organizations. We were able to test with 2 midwives from ASAM, a community engagement officer from Barts NHS Trust, and 2 members from the Sister Circle. Here's what they had to say. Firstly, the tools foster informal conversations about feelings, which is really the aim of the service. Secondly, due to limited time, the tool would really help the midwives quickly get an update on the case history of the mother. This brought us to our final prototype, which we were able to test with 7 maternity mates and receive their feedback. Now we present to you our maternity toolkit, a physical, low-tech system designed to support reflection, expression, and continuity across the entire maternity journey. We made sure to avoid digital exclusion and designed the toolkit to be economically produced and be sensitive to different cultures. There are 4 components of the toolkit, and now you'll see how the toolkit is used. The pregnancy journey foldout slots easily into the cover of the toolkit. This can then be expanded into an illustrated milestone map and also weekly breakdown of the different appointments on the backside. On the cover, you also have vital care information, and here slotted into the folder, you have the snapshot, which can easily be written on, and also the next steps card. The maternity notes booklet given by the midwife also conveniently fits inside the folder, along with any other loose items like ultrasounds, which can then be framed and shown on the back of the folder. Here are also some details to show you the specific characteristics of the toolkit. And from the maternity mate feedback, we found that the tool was highly useful in demystifying the pregnancy journey. The tool presents key milestones in a non-clinical way, which is especially helpful for women who feel overwhelmed by fragmented information. This now begs the question, how will this service be experienced?
So the journey starts with the woman noticing early signs and taking a home pregnancy test. She shares the news with her partner or family, navigating what comes next. At her GP appointment, the pregnancy is confirmed and she is guided into antenatal care pathways. She also learns about maternity mates through trusted community or healthcare channels and registers for support. She is paired with a maternity mate and is connected with other expecting mothers, reminding her that she is not alone. Ahead of her first midwife appointment, she and her maternity mate use the maternity toolkit together. Inside it, she captures her identity, values, and preferences, organizes her thoughts, and prepares questions. When she attends her first midwife appointment, she receives the maternity notes from the midwife and places the notes inside the toolkit folder. The midwife also looks at the snapshot and the question cards to provide more personal care. The simple act reinforces her ownership of her journey and ensures her story is visible, not fragmented. During midwife appointments, reflections from toolkit guide conversations and shape care. Her voice becomes part of the clinical exchange. After each visit, she and her maternity mate review what was discussed, document outcomes and follow-up actions, and prepare questions for what is ahead. Ultrasound images, handwritten notes, and small memories are added to her folder, building a living record of her pregnancy over time. Throughout the pregnancy and labor, the maternity mate offers emotional support, reassurance, and advocacy. After birth, the maternity notes are handed back to the midwife. The mother keeps the maternity toolkit with her, now transformed into a personal archive of her journey. She shares her story with the Sister Circle community, connecting with other expecting mothers. The moment makes the end of one journey and the beginning of another, one rooted in confidence, connection, and empowered motherhood.
Looking at the service from the lens of implementation, we now ask, how does our service scale? When you look at the micro, meso, and macro level, you can see that the stakeholders are not just pregnant women, but also the midwifery units, voluntary organizations, and at the very macro level, the actual NHS maternity policy. Now, how will we measure this impact? From an individual level, it's about pregnant mothers using the tool consistently as a way to share their journey. But this can also scale all the way into effective midwife sessions, more personalized and accurate diagnosis, and the overall standardization of the antenatal journey in a way that is more personal and human. Ultimately, our service aims to support the implementation of the Continuity of Carer NHS policy. To end, we went back to this quote by Edna Ahmed from Barts Health. At the end of the day, kindness is the universal language. And it is with this mindset and principle that we designed, developed, and dreamed for our service and the future of antenatal care. Thank you for listening.